Yes, welcome back to V8 Creative and part 14 of the Morgan three-wheeler build. And on this episode, we're going to be installing the cooling and oiling systems. Yes, welcome back to the Dean Den and another episode of spannering. I know, I just love it myself. The reward of all that effort of getting all the parts, refurbishing, reconditioning, and now we are bolting them all together. And you're going to join me as I add those little gems to this beautiful, beautiful 1930s supercar. It's amazing. Supercar. Front brakes for an option. I still can't get over that. Anyway, what we're focusing on is we're going to be installing the oil filter, the oil lines, the oil taps, also the fuel feed. That's the little tap inside the cockpit. Yep, you switch the fuel on and off inside the cockpit. Very, very safe. And then installing that beautiful radiator and connecting the V-twin to the cooling system. All lovely spanner work, so by the end of the episode, she is going to look very, very pretty. Now here is the fuel tank coming through the firewall, which is made of wood. Brilliant. And then here, you can see there's a little tap. And that tap has been screwed into the tank. I've used sealant already, so I've done that off camera. And here, this is a feed that goes towards the carburetor. And all I need to do is just tighten this up. There you go. Right, so here, this should all now be fuel tight. I flippin' hope so, because if it isn't, your legs are down there. Let me just get something to wipe the sealant off, because I put some sealant on the threads. Here we go. There we go. So that should all be tight now. And the lovely little switch here, lovely valve. So pointing down means there's a flow, and when you pull it up, it means it's stop. Anti-theft, I think that's what that's for. So let's go to the other side of the firewall, and then I'll show you what I've done, because I've added a fuel filter. How unusual is that? If you can imagine, this is the firewall, and above us here is the rest of the fuel tank. So half of it goes into the cockpit and half of it goes under this cowl here. Now interestingly, the front of the petrol tank is an oil tank, but onto that in a minute when I install the oiling system. So if you remember the other side, there was the fuel line, and here is the fuel line coming out. And what I've done is I've added a very small length with new clips of fuel resistant hose, and here I've added a fuel filter. Now I don't know why my dad didn't put a fuel filter on it, but anyway, for me, it's essential, because I know when I cleaned out the fuel tank, it was pretty skank in the bottom of it. And what I want to see is these glass ones, some people like them, some people don't. But what I quite like, this is a low pressure system, so there's no risk of it breaking or leaking. But what this is giving me is the opportunity to see if there's any debris building up. And also, sometimes it's nice just to see the fuel, just see it there. Especially because this hasn't got a fuel gauge. So you haven't got a clue how much fuel's in it. I remember my dad used to have a stick, it's around here somewhere, which said half a gallon, 1 gallon, 1.5 gallon. Anyway, the other side of the fuel filter, we have another length of fuel pipe, which you probably can't see with the new clip. And that fuel pipe goes through the gap in the radiator, and I'll show that a little image up here to show you what I mean, and then it attaches to the carburetor, which will fit in a moment after we fit the inlet manifold. And that is the fuel system. There's no fuel pump. This is all fed on gravity. So as again, as with all of this, it is just very, very simple and actually pretty inexpensive to install. So that's the fueling system. What we're going to do next is move on to the oiling system. Oil system time. Now, as I previously explained, this part of the fuel stroke oil tank is to hold oil, and that is why you'll see on the top of these Morgans 2 fillers on top of the bodywork. One is for the oil tank and one is for the fuel tank. Now, what you'll see on the bottom here is there's another one of these lovely taps, which I've had to clean because it was pretty grotty, I must say. I think some of the oil had solidified in it, and that now has been screwed in tightly with a fibre washer and sealant into the bottom of the oil tank. There is also another union here which I've done the same with, and really what it is this oiling system is very, very straightforward, much like the fuel system. So what we have is an output from the oil tank. It goes through the oil filter, it then goes in the engine, and then the pump pumps the oil back into this reservoir. I'm sure it goes that way around, I'm sure. Someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure. And here's a picture of the little oil pump. It's actually inside the engine itself. Now the oil filter housing is this little beautiful thing here. Look at that. And that sits here. Okay, and then inside this goes the oil filter, and this is what the oil filter looks like. It's great. It's like a cage. It's probably, I don't know if it's stainless, I don't know what it's made of, the cage, but it's a metal, and it's got like this fabric inner. Now I've got a spare one which I'll keep with the car. It's always good to have a spare one of these, but I popped a new one in the filter housing. So the first job is, let's put the filter housing onto this flat panel here. Now if you look, if I lift up this fuel pipe, what it does is it sits just there, and there are 4 holes which allow this to be bolted to this aluminium panel, and under this aluminium panel is a thick ash piece of wood. I guess it's for rigidity. So the bolts that go through here, you'll see them, are pretty long. Now you'll see here, what I've done is I've made sure this lines up with this perfectly, and before I bolt this in, off camera I've made up this little oil pipe, and of course this needs to be oil resistant rubber, so let's pop this on. It's far easier to do it before you bolt this in place. So there you go. A bit of washing up liquid often helps do that, but I don't need to do it for this. And what you can see is I've used new clips, made sure they're lined up. Sorry, I'm a bit anal like that. Make sure all that sits nice and comfortably. And then let me get the 4 bolts and the washers. And they should just, if everything's lined up, just slide in. This is so simple, this car. Sorry if my hand's in the way. Perfect. Now, somehow, I've got to get inside the car, down the footwell, and put on the nuts and washers and tighten them up. So, I doubt if I'm going to talk a lot now. You might hear me grunting and what have you, but I'll put a bit of background music on as I fight with this. But hopefully, it's not going to be too bad. So let's give it a go. Now, rather annoyingly, I've just looked back at the last scene and a lot of it was out of focus. I'm just having one of those camera days. When you do this YouTube stuff, you'll know exactly what I mean. But I'm not taking this off again. I'm not redoing that shot, but you could see what I've done. So this now, the oil filter is in situ. So I'll just move that around so that's comfortable, and I'll do those two clips up. I prefer these style of clips over what I would call the traditional worm drive Jubilee clips. I think they're just a bit more authentic, and to be honest, you do see these more on fuel systems and oil systems. There we go. So next, this tap. So there's going to be a feed that comes from this tap that's going to go to the engine, and also a feed that's going to come out this end of the oil filter. Now this goes like that. Now what I'm thinking is, do I want that on before I put the rad on? I don't know if that's going to be in the way of me manoeuvring the radiator. I think I'm going to put that on later. As regards this feed, the same applies to that. Because what you're seeing is all these feeds here, so this one's for fuel, one's oil feed and one's oil return, all those go through the centre of the rad, and really I don't want them in the way, so I can't really complete the oiling system yet, so I'll just take those off. I'm not too worried about the flexi being there for the fuel, because that can easily be threaded through. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to prepare to mount the radiator and cowl. And this is where I'm using these lovely, lovely two pieces of wood. My dad has sort of hewn out of something. They're probably ash. And what these are little spacers to hold up the rad. And yet I could replace those in metal, but no, I just want to keep them because they remind me of my dad a lot. Now, what we need to do is we need to make sure this radiator is not bolted firmly to the car. And that's another mistake my dad made, and that's why one of the brackets broke. So up here, can you see this? No, let me pull you back a bit more. Now, what I'm going to do is up here, you can see here, I've got a new rubber bobbin. So that's where the top of the rad sits. Also here, there is going to be rubber where these two mounting points actually sit. And then underneath the base of the radiator, my dad has left a small gap all the way around, and I am going to put a whole layer, which you'll see in a minute, of rubber to sit underneath the radiator. And when it goes on, it will then be completely isolated from the car by rubber. Well, that's the plan anyway. And once that's in place, what we can do is finalize the feed for basically the fuel in the oil lines. And then also what we can do is add the cooling system, which is the feed and the returns. So let's get on with that. Let's focus next on that rad. Right, so now the focus is rubber. Now if you look here on the bottom, I've purchased 10mm rubber. It's quite high density stuff, but my dad, when he had this built, he on purpose left a 10mm gap to make sure that this rad would have a nice soft base to sit on. So what I've got to do now is get a super sharp Stanley knife blade and make sure I don't cut my fingers off, and shape this so it sits perfectly underneath this radiator. So let's just get a new blade. Wish me luck. There's a good chance I'm going to cut myself. Very good chance.
Take it slow, we are talking loud. If you listen close, you can kiss the sky away with your cell phones. Friday night and I dyed your hair and I messed it up, but you didn't care, or did you? Drifting round in blue days, but we knew it. Wait for the days we got time, gave it time. Now I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. I fall for you. Oh, oh, oh. Can't control it. I'm falling, I'm falling. With my deja vu. How I'm falling for you. Falling for you. See your face next to mine, and I feel unsafe when I curl up next to you. Skin to skin isn't complicated. In my head I go round in circles. Oh, I hate it. Drifting round in blue days, but we knew it. Wait for the days we got time, gave it time. Now I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. I fall for you. Oh, oh, can't control it. I'm falling.
Well, I think that's pretty bloody good. Excuse my French. Let's pop this on and see how accurate it was. Sticky stuff. So this is going to sit on there like that. And I think that's pretty good. Now you can see here I've left this lip here because I had to make a decision because I couldn't really cut in and leave those little tails. So that is the reason I left it like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this over to the car and just do a trial fit and see if I've got this right and the bobbin lines up. Sticking on the rubber. Get in the right position. There we go. All right. Okay, I think, let me take this off. And we're going to just clean off that residue and then put the rad on for the final time. I know you can't see this, but the job's worth doing. Do it right. Right, so now we're ready to fit the rad and the cowl for the last time. Now this will be removable in the future because it's only held in by 2 nuts on the bottom and 1 on the top. But the join between the radiator and the bodywork needs to be cushioned slightly, and here we've got some what's called wing trim. Now what this does is this goes around the join and really makes a neat finish. Now this needs to be attached somehow. Now what I could do is use little tacks, but what I'm worried about is it might be a bit wavy, and this is going to be really good, this line, because you're going to see it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be using a small amount, and only a small amount, of Worth Bond and Seal. Now this stuff is amazing. This is what I used on my Ultima. It's quite expensive per tube, I think about £18, but it's amazing stuff. It really is good. And as I said, I'm not going to put lots on. I'm just going to put a very small amount, so it grips.
Why'd you even call me up when I never wanna see ya? I'm just on my way back home, little drunk and alone, but I'd rather kick ya, even though it's Friday night. And I gotta play.
So there we go. Good stuff, that. Right, now let's get the rad. Okay. Just locate the bottom two holes. And there we go. Right. Now, let's put these nuts on.
I could use a bam, 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 but it's not from you, 'cause I'm not that hollow. Baby, let it be. You could try to sweet talk all you want, but I ain't that lonely. Baby.
Right, now that's in place now. Loose, but in place. Right, once I put this in, there's no going back. Well, there is, but it would be very messy to go back. So I'll just pop that over there. And this needs to be pushed in the gap. Now I appreciate you can't see, but you will in a minute. And I'll get around the other side.
Forget your rules, forget your shoes. I've done everything you asked, but I wasted time. Forget your truth, you're just cruel. I swear anything's better than you. Get you on the flip side, get you on the flip side. So goodbye. Funny how it works sometimes. Yeah, we kinda hit it off at first. Checking every bar in town, all the sleepless nights until things got worse. You're so manipulative, trying to convince me of the shit, but it didn't work on me.
So it neatly fills that gap and also allows the rad to have a slight amount of cushion. Next, we're going to move on to the water feed and returns for the rad. Cooling the engine. So this isn't a pressurized system whatsoever. So what we're going to do first is focus on these bottom feeds first. Now we have these lovely little unions here that my dad has, the brass end, and he's soldered this bit of his heating tube, I think, so it lines up with the bottom of the rad. So if we pop this on here, just a trial fit, that should just easily spin on there. Let me get a big spanner to make sure those grip up. While I'm just testing, yeah, that goes solid, that nips up on it. There you go. So that's nipped up now. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'll be putting some Hylamar on these joints here to make sure we don't get any water leaks. And to bridge the gap, I have some rubber tube. So let's measure how long these need to be. And the only thing with Hylamar Blue is it is sticky for a reason. Now you can tell it's all in the threads. There we go. So that's one bottom hose done. Let's do the other one. We'll just rinse and repeat. Second one done. Right, no guessing where this goes. Right, this goes on here, like that. Okay. Guess what goes between here? Goes on there like that, and then we'll cut it about there, I think. What should I put on that one first? It's like a little puzzle, what goes on first. Can you imagine them in the Morgan factory building these? They'd be whipping this out in no time at all. Here I am, faffing around. Right. There we go. Right. Super. Now, two more of these. I'll put them in the same orientation. Or, yeah, I'll do that. Here we have a tapered, what would you call it, like a lip that sits here. Now that's a little bit rusty. I'm just going to get a bit of emery and just clean that off. I don't know the water jacket doesn't really matter. So we want that waterproof seal. It needs to grind in place so loud. Yeah, that's better. It's the same making surface. Now this isn't under pressure, this system, so it just really needs to be watertight to just atmospheric pressure, which isn't a lot. So let's get this high Lamar.
Leaving this place, the sun's about to break. You're riding shotgun. The feeling we chase, I'm wide awake. Take me away now. Good time, don't you blame me. Yeah, this feeling I've got's making me crazy, making me crazy. So I'm just gonna drive.
Perfect. Same again the other side.
I'm feeling like I could go crazy. If I'm having a good time, don't you blame me. Yeah, this feeling I've got's making me crazy, making me crazy. So I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive. Drive, drive, drive.
Looks good. Looks really, really good. It all went together really easily. And I must say, I hope this will be really reliable now. I think Dad would be proud of what I've done here. If he could have seen me pulling his pride and joy apart. Well, let's let everything set and seal overnight, and I will come back tomorrow and we'll start again on the next episode. So there we have it. Another episode of Spannering draws to a close, and I must say, what a rewarding few hours I've had. Just look at it. Just isn't it a beautiful, beautiful installation? And what I love with these 33-wheeler Morgans is the engine is stuck out the front. Next time, what I'm going to be focusing on, well, it might be electrics, might be the interior, it may even be installing the front wheels, mudguards, and also the front suspension upgrades. But until then, as I always say, keep smiling and just love your spannering.
We can do better. We could be chasing dreams. We know what's right, and we know how it feels. Yeah, we can do better. We can make a change for real.